So just wanted to welcome you guys. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules, taking time away from your families, your programs to come out here and just get a chance to share some information with us. I've been with USA Wrestling for 5 years now. Prior to that, coached here in New Jersey at Stevens Institute of Technology for 7 years. Before that, I was at Army. I was an assistant coach for Chuck Barbie up at West Point. And hey, come on in. You're perfect timing. You're right on time. Yeah, anywhere you go. And then, you know what, we'll break into teams in just a second, and that way the folks that haven't checked in yet will kind of know where to go, and then we can do our housekeeping and get everybody set up with their teams. 3 years at Army with Chuck Barbie, had an opportunity to coach one of our athletes in the NCAA finals. And that kind of motivated me to want to try to find ways that I could help other people do that. So I wrote a training log book. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the championship training log for wrestling. The original version was about like that. It was 5 months and it was daily. And boy, if you wrote everything in that and filled it up, you kind of knew exactly where you were going. I sent it to Gable and I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "It's a big book." And that's all he said about the whole thing, was that it was a big book. He said, good stuff. It's a big book. So I made it down into a 1 month version and kind of reformatted it and made it easier for people to carry around and to use. And I started to realize that there was a process in that. And eventually that book became an app because we want to make things for our athletes easier for them to utilize while they're going through the difficulties of what we ask them to go through. And I think that's what's so special about our profession, is not only are we learning the goals of these athletes so that we can help them reach them, but we're also helping them set goals that maybe that they hadn't set for themselves to get to higher places. That's what this next 3-day window is about, is how we can reach out to those athletes or even the non-athletes that we're trying to recruit to bring in to help build our numbers. And if we can find ways to reach out to these people in a way that they can absorb and accept, and not necessarily in the way we think they need to absorb and accept it, then that's better for everybody. The first few clinics like this, it was pretty much me with a clicker, and I told everybody what I knew, and that was a silver college. And after the first one, I was like, what do you think we need to do? And the coach was like, "We'd really like to work with the other coaches in the room." There was a lot of great information in the room that didn't get shared because there wasn't a lot of time. So then the next clinic, we picked 3 or 4 sessions where you guys get to work with each other. And the more we do that, the more we get better feedback and a better environment for you guys in this educational process. So I've gotten to the point now after 5 years where I think this, for me, the best way that we can get you guys learning and interacting is to just present some information and then put that to you. And so that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the process of earning your silver. Some of you guys have gone deep into that, and some of you are still just starting off, and maybe this is your first silver task, is attending this college. And then you'll be able to complete those other tasks now because you'll know what they are, you'll know the steps involved and the process for submission, because we didn't ever really at the national office create an easy way for you to absorb the information of what you needed to do, how to do it, and where it goes, and why it's important. So if we at the national office can't tell you how we think it should be done, then we can't hold a standard to the coaches on how it should be done. Does that sound familiar to your programs, your businesses, your families, right? I think wrestling is a medium for life and communication and interpersonal relationships, intrapersonal relationships. Wrestling is just the tool that we all love and have picked, right? It doesn't matter if it's another sport, if it's a band or a musical instrument, whether it's your business world. What we're doing here helps everybody in every situation. And my hopes as the coach education guy at USA Wrestling are that what we can start to do is we can start to create environments for our athletes and our programs to build those cultures that make it more fun to be around, right? And it doesn't mean that wrestling is innately fun, whether you're cutting weight or lifting weights or having somebody poke you in the eye and have to go to the ER. There's a lot of challenges to wrestling that we add on to the challenges of being a young person. And then imagine that young person, generic, having additional stresses and struggles in their life. One thing that I'm working on is I don't want to say I'm writing a book, but I'm writing a book, and I'm trying to come up with different chapters of just things I've learned from coaches, family members, and friends in my life that I just would love to share. And one of them is a stress bucket. And you'll hear me talk a lot about this, and it's not necessarily a part of our clinic today, but to me, there's this bucket that we all carry, our emotional stress, our physical stress, and in that bucket, right now, there's only so much space. So if I walk into an environment and my bucket's already full, how much more stress can I accept from a coach or a spouse, from a boss or an employer, right? Once my stress bucket's full, I can't handle anymore. And then what happens? And this is not just what happens when you get overstressed in your lives. Anybody?
You shut down.
Shut down? Certainly, shutdown is a big part of stress, right? I just need to get away from it, right? Maybe kind of fight or flight, right? Maybe I run from stress, right? Maybe I'm a firefighter and I have to run to it. We talked about this guy in Pennsylvania that was a security guard at Parkland, or not Pennsylvania, Delaware, where the school shooting was. The security guard was arrested yesterday. Florida, I'm sorry, Parkland, Florida. Yes, that's right. He was arrested because in the face of adversity, he didn't run into it. He stayed away from it. And because of that, 17 people were, I don't know if they were, was 17 the death? Yeah. 17 people were killed because the person whose job it was to try to protect them didn't try. He shut down in the face of stress. You ever see your athletes do that? Do you guys do that sometimes too as coaches? And I'll talk a lot from the spouse role. I got married in July. 47, first time married, and boy am I learning a lot. About myself, about my partner, about how we interact, about how we parent. She's got a beautiful 14-year-old girl that I get to be that gets you excited. That I get to be like an adult role model. I'm not her dad, she's got a great dad, right? But I get to see these things and I get to realize things in life. And I think if we think of it, a lot of us, if we're younger, maybe we're not parents yet and we don't understand those emotions, and that's okay because we're not there yet. It's just like the athletes that come into our room, they may not understand the intensity that they're about to walk into. I'm going to ask you guys for your help on how we can teach people these skills so that we can make our sport grow. The reason I showed a bit of evolutionary information on the screen while you guys were kind of getting in and settling is because I want wrestling to evolve personally, and I think we all do. Evolution is a process that the only reason that those of us in this room are here today is because at some point, someone or some creature made a decision to do this instead of to do that, right? That rock that they were talking about, this meteor, it gets bumped, and it gets bumped just enough that it ends up intersecting the earth and creates the environment for growth and life. Our job is to be evolutionary in our sport. I'm going to ask you to be open-minded to ideas that may seem quacky. I promise I have nothing in my system from Colorado that makes me think these crazy thoughts, right? I'm not out there doing any weird stuff. What I'm doing is I'm trying to relate certain things of our world and our planet to our microcosm and our small environment. And I hope that if we can keep that open mind, you don't have to like it and you don't have to accept it and you definitely don't have to do it. But I just want you to be open that, that's interesting. And if that's enough today, and that's where you're at, that's all I can ask. Now, if you can dive in and dig deep and say, yes, I'm going to implement this, this is how, and you got your process, well, that's the goal. But I have to allow everyone in this room to grow in their own time with my support and my encouragement, right? And you guys have to be the same for me, because I'm exactly like everyone sitting here. I just get to facilitate this discussion, but I'm going to be in every group today learning from you just like you're learning from some of the information that we're sharing and learning from each other. Does that sound pretty cool? That's what I hope these clinics become and continue to be. I don't want it to be, I know what I'm talking about and you don't, because that's not the case. There's so much that I'll learn today. And have you ever seen Edgar Dale's Cone of Learning? I'm going to pull this up. This is pretty cool. There's some different versions of this. What's kind of interesting is that what we hear, we learn and retain very little, right? If we learn it and we see it, we'll retain a little bit more, right? So me just talking to you guys, I can't expect you to walk out of here with more than 10% of the information. Good to see you. Come on in anytime. So the more we include better teaching mechanisms, and we want to teach, we want to impart this information to our young people, the more we learn about how learning happens, the more we can impact those people in that process. What we find is that the most concrete way to retain information is to teach it. Have you ever had your athletes stand up in front of the room and say, you know what, tomorrow you're teaching a swing single to the right, and I want you to work on the finish for that. You're teaching it tomorrow. Figure it out. What does that change in your athlete's mind when they know they have to come in tomorrow and teach a swing single versus you showing them a swing single and then just telling them to do it and then yelling at them on Saturday because they didn't do it right? And don't we all kind of do that? Like, I've done it for sure, right? To some degree, those are some of the things we do. And if that's not you, you're already way ahead of us. And I'm just going to advance you through the course. You don't have to stay. You can go ahead and take off and your silver's good. I think we all have room for growth and evolution, right? Evolution isn't something that changes, and that's because we're always learning, we're always observing, and we're always making changes to make our environment better. If we can accomplish those things in the next 3 days, we're going to send 24 coaches out into the world really making a difference in communities. And then those kids and those people will grow up, and then when they're coaches, they're going to evolve more because they've been in an evolutionary environment, positive environment. It doesn't have to be perfect today. And that's one thing that I think for me, my wife and I realized, I'm not going to be perfect for her. I'll make mistakes and I'll anger her to really high levels sometimes, and vice versa. No, that's not true. She's perfect. Hi, honey. You're on. Right? We have to understand each other. We have to be patient with each other, and we have to allow each other to grow in their own time. And if we can do that with pure love and trust for the people around us, we've got a good thing going. So anyway, if we can get to that point, that's why you guys are the teachers this week, is because I've learned that my old way of teaching, that just isn't effective. So we're going to try to make sure that we teach in a way that has better cementing properties. Quick review of the schedule. If anybody needs a copy of this, let me know, text me, and then I can text it right back to you, or email me, and I'll email it back to you. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what the silver process looks like. Once we're done with that, we're going to take a quick break, and that quick break is going to be a little bit more of a introspective look, and we're going to do a little bit of meditative time. And I don't know, how many of you guys do any meditation, transcendental meditation, or have you ever done the tapping? What are your thoughts? Has it been pretty good? Do you continue to do it, or?
A little bit of both. I mean, I did it at first, went away from it, and then came back to it. It helps me focus sometimes.
Why'd you come back to it?
I found the other way sometimes I got too distracted just within my own thoughts.
Cool. So you changed your environment to accept things when they worked, how they worked. That's exactly what we're hoping, right? As you might try this stuff and you might be like, yeah, that's not for me. Not yet, right? And maybe never, but hopefully that things will come through. I did this particular one we're going to do today, I did it for the first time this morning. And so this, again, this is just more of a bonus throw out there. And it's a 9-minute and 37-second motivation or introspective. And I bet at least 3 or 4 times consciously I wanted to quit the process because I had to look and answer questions about myself. And if we don't know us, and if we don't take care of us, how can we be the best for those in our lives? It's a chapter for the book, so we won't put it on the tape. A good friend of mine flew Air Force One for President Clinton. He's an amazing guy, colonel in the Air Force. Like, everybody loves him. Great dude. And after he'd retired from the military, he took an ROTC job. And so he's thinking, okay, this is pretty cool. School's done at 3. I've got all this time with my wife. And that's what she thought too. But at 3 o'clock, instead of just going home, he went to the gym. And so he'd work out till 5, and then he'd get home about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So his wife addressed him, and she said, I thought you retired. And he said, I did retire. She's like, yeah, but you went right back to working this ROTC job. And he said, I did. I don't have enough of that feeling that I've taught enough or shared enough. I think I can reach more people, and I think I can help them. So that was why I did that. She's like, I'm okay with that because I work those hours too. But then it's 2.5 hours later before you get home, and I don't see you as much as I thought I was going to see you Because you're working out. And he said, you know what, honey? I'm happy to do one of two things. I'll either continue to work out and I'll be with you for a long time, or I'll stop working out and I'll be with you for a shorter length of time. You tell me how you'd like to handle it. You can have me more in the evenings now, but you probably won't have me as many years, or you can have me more years and maybe just not as much in the evening. How do you want me to proceed? I'll do whatever you want me to do. She said, I'll see you at 6:30. Go ahead and work out. How we communicate our goals, our beliefs, our thoughts to those around us is maybe the most important part of what we do as humans, this communication piece. So I hope that as we build our coaching philosophies, as we go through parent meetings, as we talk about communication, I hope we start to understand deliberate intention on how we run a practice, how we communicate, the words we choose to use, and the way we choose to treat other people. All of those things come into this mix of our environment and a lot of other stuff that you're going to share with each other. So I'm excited on how that's going to work. So we'll do a little bit of that meditation. We're going to talk about green framing. You're going to be like, this guy really is from Colorado. Geez, where are the socks with your Tevas? They're upstairs. I just didn't want to wear them on film today. We're going to talk about this green framing concept. It's taking negative things in our life and stressful things in our life and changing them. How many of you love problems? I want to have a lot of problems in my life. There you go, right? None of us want to have problems, but how many of us do have problems in our life? Of course we do. What if I told you that green framing would help you take every problem that you have, and instead of problems that you now have, now what you have are challenges and milestones or goals to help reach those challenges and accomplish that? If I gave you something that you thought was a problem and then changed it into those descriptions, is it easier to handle? Less stressful? Maybe a little less stress in your bucket, so that when your spouse or your kids or your administrators come in and they throw more stress in your bucket, you're able to handle it instead of flowing over, blowing up, reacting instead of what? Responding. Because a response usually creates thought. I needed to think about how I wanted to respond to that email. I needed to think how I wanted to respond about this athlete missing practice when I just kicked somebody off the team yesterday. And now this person misses practice. Man, but they're a two-time state champ. I love to win. How does that differ? There are no rights and there are no wrongs. This is just you where you're at, working on your evolution to where you want to be. And if we can throw some tools out there, that's what I want to do. That's all we got. We'll go into the coaching philosophy builder. How many of you have a written coaching philosophy that you post and you can see? Not many of us. I've almost never had one until my later years of coaching. I did it at Stevens. It was the first time I posted one, right? Helped me a lot because it was always my frame of reference. So we're going to actually help you build a coaching philosophy. I'm so glad that you guys don't all have a written one because I'm so jazzed about running this session. I want to see how it works. So I'm glad you guys are already there. Again, another break. And we're trying to give more breaks. I understand that as professionals taking 3 days off, you may have calls, you may have emails and texts that you have to deal with. I would ask if you do, maybe go to the back of the room, step out in the hallway, deal with what you need to deal with. I get it. If you guys leave, it's just like my teams. Guys would always come up and say, Coach, can I go to the bathroom? I'm like, I don't know, can you? Do you know how? It's right out there. Just go. Go do your thing, come back, right? I don't need to know that you went to the bathroom. Same deal. You guys are adults. I'm not here. Just not be distracted with the other so that we can create the best environment for those that are here and able to learn in that moment. But take any of those calls. I get it. If I see you move, it's not a problem. There's no anger, frustration, or anything here. So parent meeting roles. Then we'll come in tomorrow. The communication tools piece, I wanted to do it early in the morning because I think it's so critical. I wanted fresh minds after a good night's sleep and maybe some coffee. Each morning we'll have coffee here in the back of the room as well. So that way, hopefully that'll help us keep focus and attention going as well. So we'll hit communication tools, and that's going to be the whole morning. But it's not going to be me talking. It's going to be me presenting a tool, you guys discussing it. Me present a tool, you guys discuss it. It's going to be your day, not on me. Then we'll go, we've got a coach that I've worked with quite a bit in Virginia, just finished his master's in sports psychology. And so it was really neat. I saw him at the Open in Vegas. And he said that he had just finished the program, and I said, I want you to come and teach at the Silver College. He's been a guy that I've known for a long time and I liked for a long time. And for him to have achieved that master's degree in something that's so vital to all of us and how we work with our athletes. How many have like a sports psychology either background or a training program that you implement with your programs right now? Okay, and not a lot. And again, these are good things. Those that are doing it, I'd like you to share that information, how and why. The why is always our most important, but some good stuff there too. I think you guys will figure it out. Then after he comes in, Gary Mayab, one of our Greco-Roman national team coaches. I've known Gary for a long time now. I don't know if I know anybody in the world that's better for our sport. Anybody. He is one of the greatest humans I've ever known. He's one of the greatest coaches. He's detail focused. He lives in my basement. So, and another thing with my wife that I've learned is that if I say, hey, I'm going to go check the laundry in the basement, and I come up 2 hours later, I probably didn't meet some type of an emotional need or expectation that my wife had put on me. And so I've learned with Gary, I'm like, hey, Gary, I'm just to change the laundry, man. I can't talk wrestling for 2 hours, but we'll come back. So I've learned that process too. So I'm super excited to have him in. So not only is he going to present on periodization to you, but he's also going to come back then and do some sessions on the mat with us. This next session, I want you to start thinking about this now. There's a concept I heard on NPR called slow multitasking. How many of us are multitaskers? How many of us wish, instead of multitasking 1,000 things that we can't ever really get right or get perfectly or even sometimes get accomplished, if we could slow that process down and start to see, you know what I just did for this project, I can use that on these other 2 projects, and now I've got 3 projects out of the way. When we create that space and time that we need for our brain to process things and to sort things out, because as we multitask today, it's too much too fast, right? And our kids are trying to do that. All this information coming in from their phone, all the information they get in school from parents as coaches, it's overwhelming. And that stress bucket, out the roof. And then they come into practice for us at 3 o'clock, and then we're trying to put more on them, and maybe their bucket's already too full. How do we deal with it? How do we cope with it? You guys are going to teach each other the answers to this. This 3x5 progression, conceptually, what we're doing is we're trying to create a basic wrestling curriculum that every wrestler should know, and we want it to be revolved around 3 things. Physical literacy. What are the physical skills that we, especially for 12 and under, that we need to make sure that our 12 and unders are learning so that they can execute techniques? You ever think about all the steps in a high crotch? It's a lot, right? I love the move. I hate trying to teach it. Because first of all, I have to have good position to avoid my opponent's attack. Secondly, I have to have my lines of defense ready for that. So that's lines of defense. Once I get my lines of defense, now I have to have reactionary if they do. And then I can maybe down block. Then I have to set my opponent up, which gets them to step to the lead leg to the side that I can actually hit it. How many of us are right-handed? Right? If 90% of us are right-handed, that means 90% of us attack with our right hand. So right away I know, if I hit a high crotch, it's to your right leg. If I hit a single, it's probably to your left leg, because I'm always reaching with my right hand. If I hit a double, well, I got to use both. Then I have to do a level change. So now I have to set up level change, and imagine, put a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old person in this and just say bounce for a little while. Do they have the physical literacy to be able to pull, bounce, knee pound, hip explosion, high thigh or high crotch, right? Most of us hit a high knee. It's not a high crotch. And then we get extended. A high crotch. And then the backhand has to jam around as my foot comes up, toes pointed, head position, driving through to execute a takedown and a finish to get our 2 points. And oh, by the way, it's against somebody that doesn't want us to do that and can do just about anything physically to try to stop us. So we teach it on Friday. Kid doesn't hit it on Saturday. We just went over that. Gosh, how did you not get it right? If we can get our youth programs developing the proper physical literacy, I think a hip thrust is a really difficult thing to teach, especially in a sport where what do? We wrestle like cavemen. Our hips are here, our thoracics are here, and then we walk around the rest of our life all jacked up, thinking we're tough because we're wrestlers. But our bodies don't work well like this, do they? Our vertebra needs to be straight. Our head needs to be straight, right? I could wrestle in a better position so that my body can communicate to my brain, and then my brain can send more power to my body. Things like this, if we can teach that at a youth level, don't you think that as these kids progress, and then they get to high school and the coach is like, wow, these kids are easy to teach. Or maybe he thinks I'm a great teacher because these kids are picking it up. But if they come in with physical literacy, specifically for wrestling, then as they grow and evolve, we've already given them the foundation for evolution, right? So physical literacy, health skills. How many times have you seen a situation where a coach says, need you to get down to 112. If you can make 112, you got a spot on the team. And then that's it. They don't give them tips on how to stay hydrated when they're cutting weight. They don't give them nutritional information. I talked with Gable about this. I said, what's your thought on weight cutting? He goes, it's not weight cutting. It's weight management. It's nutrition. This is what we got to get people understanding. It's not about cutting weight. How do you wrestle when you cut weight? He's like, it's nutrition. Manage your nutrition, you'll manage your weight. I'm like, wow, that's coming from Gable. Maybe that's something we can all add on to. So what are the health skills involved there? Hydration, nutrition, maybe getting to the point of multi-nutrients? I don't know. But I want you to start thinking about what are the health skills? Showering, right? How important is that in a sport where moms and dads are trying to figure out if they're going to let Johnny or Sally wrestle, and then all of a sudden you start talking about ringworm and herpes and viral outbreaks and all that. I'm like, why would I put my kid into that? Because we're going to teach them the way to protect themselves and to protect those around them. That's why. Okay, yeah, now Johnny and Sally can wrestle. Because we're explaining it in a way. So if we could do health skills, physical literacy, and then life skills. Not goal setting. How many of us have set goals and never reached them? All of us. What I want to do is I want to do priority management, right? And successful goal development or goal evolution. Because I had an athlete one time that his goal was to be an academic All-American, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's barely got the grades and definitely doesn't have the wrestling skills. How is this guy going to be an academic All-American for us? That was his goal. Would that goal help our program? Absolutely. Would that goal help him train to be like Cale, to beat Cale Sanderson, and then if he didn't beat Cale, at least he's beaten everybody else better? Absolutely. I'm like, hey, I'm in. We're going to make you an academic All-American. 3 years. One time he was ready to quit the team, right? All these things back and forth. We got that, and we got him there, and junior year, he's an academic All-American. I'm like, holy crap, it's amazing. You know what I didn't do? I didn't sit down with him to review after that goal what the next goal was. So senior year, I'm looking for him to continue to progress and evolve. He'd already reached the evolutionary level he was okay with, and I wasn't okay with that. And then we did this again. And he graduated, he did his thing. We're good personally, but he never reached that full potential, and we didn't get much out of him that last year either, right? Most importantly, learning to teach once we reach a goal, or if we don't reach a goal, analyze it, figure it out, set the next one, and then move on. You want to be a 4-time state champ, and then you lose your first round freshman year at state? Yeah. Guess what? I can't be a 4-time state champ now. How do I reassess my goal? Well, now I have to be a 3-time state champ. And what does that mean? What's different? Am I okay with that? Can I accept where I am right now and where I want to go by learning from the past? A lot of stuff. This is where I got to manage my talking and shut up. So, physical literacy, health skills, life skills. At a minimum, base level, what does every wrestler need in order to be successful in life through those 3 things that any coach in the world can teach? What we'll do is we'll put this on a free app. USA Wrestling will make it available to all of our members, and we'll have it taught by our national team staff and our national team athletes. So now in your program, you want to learn about nutrition, but you're like, I'm teaching, I got a family, I got another part-time job, I just don't have time. Good, you shouldn't. We, as a national office, should be able to tell you our expectations, provide that to you so that you can create the best environment that helps us recruit and retain athletes in our sport. We're going to ask you for help in how we create that. Then we've got our social, again, right out here in the cafeteria. It'll go from, actually it's going to be 7 p.m. We're going to do it right after that 6:45 session so that those traveling will be able to go home a little bit earlier. I didn't want to wait that late. So we'll start the social at 7 p.m. and that's a buffet, full buffet, and 2 drink tickets. So we'll be all set for that. So I'm guessing that'll go from about 7 to 9, and certainly feel free to stay and socialize and hang out more. Then Friday's schedule. These are going to switch. Terry Steiner is actually going to go first. He is not going to be doing lower body attacks and transitions. He's going to be doing more offensive work, I believe from parterre and maybe some from neutral. Matt Linlin and then is going to be doing the second session just before lunch, top pressure and turns, Greco focus. After that, got our little lunch break. Then we'll be back with Kevin Jackson covering the basics. He works with our Elite Athlete Accelerator program. And if you haven't heard, anybody familiar with that at USA Wrestling? What that is basically, we bring in high schools aged athletes, very few of them, but we bring in high school aged athletes that are okay leaving home, traveling across the country, training in an Olympic training center environment with the best coaches in the world because they show some skills. That's the environment that they'll grow in. Kyle Snyder did this. So my first year with USA Wrestling, Kyle said, hey, I don't care if I'm a 4-time state champ in Maryland or not. I've already won it 3 times. My goals are a lot bigger than being a 4-time Maryland state champ. So he gave his senior year of high school to living in Colorado Springs, finishing his academics, and training in our environment. And I'll never forget one of the first days I saw him in the room, and I didn't know his name at the time. I just saw him running harder than everybody else on the cool down. And I just remember looking at the other athletes in the room, and I'm like, wow, they all have to work harder because he does. Because if they don't work at least harder than they are now, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and coach is going to get on them, right? And you don't want to be working next to Kyle Snyder with just half in. You better be going all in. He raised the environment of the room because of his willingness to do things at a certain level. It was amazing to see. Great human and a great person that can motivate others just by his own, what do they call that when you, by example, right? Leading by example. And how many of us as coaches have said to athletes, hey, you need to manage your nutrition better. And then we go out and we're grabbing a bag of McDonald's. How many of us have told athletes that they need to work out more, and we haven't had a chance to even go for a walk to try to take care of our heart rate in a while? Do we lead by example, or do we allow the athletes to say, I know what to do, you do it, and then I don't have to? I think it's important that we lead by example, right? So that these people can see what to do. Kyle Snyder leads by example in everything he does. So it's exciting to see. Kevin Jackson, Bill Zadek, Clarissa Chun, Coach Mo, another one of our Greco coaches. If you don't know Mo, he's a 2-time Olympian from Egypt, and he is a house of a human being. He is a big, big, big dude. So it's exciting. I always like the way he teaches and shows. And then we're hoping to get this session in. If not, we'll probably be done at 5:30. But if we can get Coach Russell to come in, he's preparing a talk to talk a little bit about some of our top athletes, focusing on the men's freestyle side because that's his department, and talking a little bit about the Final X. So whether you're watching it on Flow or you're coming to the event on Saturday, you have an opportunity to maybe get a little bit inside track on some of the things that they're doing and how that's working. Any questions on the schedule? You know what? I should probably. Okay. We'll do the silver tasks, and then once that's done, we will be ready to go. Is that okay? Cool. So our coach education program at USA Wrestling now has the same 4 levels it always has: copper, bronze, silver, and gold, but we have deliberate concepts for each level. This is something that we really haven't had. A lot of people said, bronze is better than copper anyway, I'll just do bronze. And what we've done is we created the new bronze course in 2015 based on the U.S. Olympic Committee's complies with national standards outline. What does that mean? Don't worry about it. 8 modules, 40 standards, that the U.S. Olympic Committee's Coach Education Office said you have to cover these areas to have a robust educational program. That's our bronze level. It's designed specifically for coaching ages 13 and up, more professional level, more intense level, but it's founded in just great roots of the course of our sport. So copper is a little different, right? So our bronze is our typical 6 hours, $80 online. Copper is different. Copper had always been more for the volunteer coach, the coach that, hey, I want to help out. I need to know a little bit about the sport, but I'm not really that into it. And we felt that that was maybe not a good use of educational time for our coaches. So what we did is we said, you know what, we're going to make this for coaching ages 12 and under, and then make this more professional curriculum for the older ages. We lose 70% of our kids by age 13 in America in competitive sports. So imagine you're a youth club coach, you got 100 kids in your room, and only 30 of them will even be wrestling in high school. That's a pretty tough number. What do we have to compete against out there in the world these days? You guys know. What are they? What are the things? Lacrosse? Football? Social media? Heck yeah. Baseball? Yep. We're competing against other sports, other interests, right? Barriers to entry? What keeps people from trying our sport? Too tough. That's a barrier for entry. How do we convince people to try it and experience it, right? Do you start them off with a big dose of wrestling, or do you start them off with that little dose? I get the flu. I go see the doctor. Does the doctor just put a gun in my head and shoot me? Hey, no flu anymore. That's probably a little overboard, right? So if you bring a novice wrestler who hasn't experienced a 3x5 progression into your crazy environment and just toughen up or get out, they're probably going to get out in droves because there's just so many other things. Toughness in our sport is certainly a barrier. What else?
The time it takes to compete on a tournament.
A whole day, right? How many of you guys run tournaments? Do you do things so that kids get in and out quicker? Parents get in and out quicker? If you do, you're on the right evolutionary track. If you don't, that's okay, because you're just not there yet. But start to figure out, would I want to sit for 12 hours in a gym watching a sport I don't even know or understand? If we do create that environment, we can't expect people to stay. And if you're okay with that, then that's on you. My job is recruitment and retention for our sport. So you're going to hear a lot of that. So that's how we do it. So copper, it's youth. It's about building self-efficacy. What's self-efficacy? Self-efficacy means I made a decision and I deal with the consequences, whether they're positive or negative, and then I can learn from it. Evolution. That's what we're teaching in the copper course, right? The basics, core Olympic values. How many of you think winning is one of the core Olympic values? Not even close, right? But I've been the guy chasing the gold medal. I've been the guy chasing the team trophy. I've been the guy chasing winning is what I thought was winning. Sometimes you have to change your definition of winning. What is winning? Right? That kid making academic All-American, that was a huge win. Not because he was an All-American wrestler or because he was a great student, but those are part of it. But because he learned the process to say, I want something, this is where I am, let me get to it. I let him down a little bit by not helping him reassess after that to go on to the next level. It wasn't his fault, it was mine. His attitude his senior year wasn't his fault, it was mine. I'm the adult. I'm the teacher. And I didn't teach him right. Is that do I have to beat myself up about that? Because that's where I was as a coach. That was where I was in my evolutionary process. And thank God now I know I'm not going to walk into a room of athletes and then blame them for the things that I did wrong because I taught it wrong or I didn't do it right. Right? That doesn't help create the best environment. So we're trying to do more of that on the copper level, more of that on the bronze level. What's great is now, we used to say that for silver, you just had to have your bronze. But then you didn't have to have the copper. Well, if you can't understand USA Wrestling's development model from 0 to 12, then how can you ever help build that perfect environment for your 13s and up? So if you're the high school coach, but your community kids come in and they're not ready, your responsibility will be to go back and figure out how to educate those youth coaches, work with those youth coaches in their time, in their space, allowing them to grow in their own space so that they can create a better environment so that you're getting better kids when they get to the high school level. Right? So that's what our goal is. Now you get your copper and your bronze and you can start working on silver tasks. I don't want to inhibit anybody from having an opportunity to work with great coaches, learn some great information. So we just said, if you've got one or the other, you can come to this task. But to start working on other tasks for silver, you'll need both copper and bronze, right? What we're going to be doing in the beginning of next membership year, September. Y'all know the membership year ends August 31st. I could never figure out why. I'm like, why do we do that? Why can't I just pay my $80 in March, and then next March I'll pay another $80? I'm good with that. And the reason is because we have like 4,000 clubs in America, or 3,000 youth clubs in America. And can you imagine if you got 60 kids coming in every day, and every day you might have new kids coming in that have a new membership cycle, or their membership cycle renews at a different date? You'd have to track new membership cycles for 60 athletes, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in that didn't renew their athlete membership because you just didn't check that process. They get injured, the insurance doesn't work, you lose your club charter. Problems. So the reason that we have August 31st as our end date is so that kid comes into your program, you check their membership once, you know they're good until August 31st of the next year. It really makes sense, and I know sometimes USA Wrestling, I'm sure, from the grassroots level, like, my God, why do we have to jump through this hoop? If there are those hoops that you're not sure why we jump through them, let me know so we can explain it, because I'll guarantee we do not have the time in the day to try to make life harder on you for no reason. That is not our mission, right? If it's harder on you in this moment, it's because we have to do it that way. But we're always willing to listen to some options that may be able to give us a better presentation, a better way of doing it. So that's copper and bronze. Youth, copper, bronze, 13 and up. So, and that's also great. If you're a youth coach and you want your parents to be certified to come into the room and watch their athlete, tell them, hey, why don't you go on USA Wrestling site, become a Wrestling Leader member. Wrestling Leader this year is the same thing coach membership has been in the past. It's just called Wrestling Leader. And that's really what we are, right? We're leaders of other humans and environments and cultures. So it's a Wrestling Leader membership. Where was I going with that? Oh, your parents. Maybe consider having them take the copper. If you're a youth coach, that would be the level that you would want your parents to understand. That would help them understand and maybe back off a little bit if they're too intense. Maybe they need to be a little bit more engaged if they don't engage at all. I think it'd be a program that you guys could get your parents on board with. And then we jump into the silver. You guys understand the expenses of silver already. $350 for a silver college. Travel and transportation to some of those things. For the most part, that's about the only main expense at the silver level. All right, so there are some other things that you'll have to do, but one is the 3-dimensional online coaching course, normally $125. The folks at 3-dimensional coaching give us a 10% discount. We had the option to take that and pull the money into USA Wrestling or give the discount to our coaches. The amount of money that you coaches pay out of your own pocket for your athletes, we're like, give the money back to our coaches. Save them money on that. So you'll get a 10% discount when you put the code in. I bet we've had 150, 200 coaches take that course so far. Every coach that sends me their certificate, I ask them, what'd you think? What are you changing? Where are you with that course? Everyone has said, I walked into practice that day, a different coach with different views, a better focus. So I would highly encourage that 3-dimensional online coaching course as not necessarily a next step, but a soon step, because it really is great stuff. You used to have to teach a bronze class, but then we put everything online and we are going away from the bronze. So what we did is we came up with an alternate, and I would highly encourage the alternate to the teaching. You've taken the bronze, you've done it all before. What we want to do is we want to get you into this OEP. It's our officials education program. And online, those are going to be on the US Wrestling Officials page. So if you go to our membership tab, click on officials, then you're going to see OEP on the left-hand side. And it'll give you a list of every OEP that's held. The only one that doesn't count, only found this out a week ago, the only one that doesn't count, Fargo. The OEP that they do in Fargo is for M1s to be chairpersons. It doesn't give you the full experience of the officials education program. So we had to pull the Fargo OEP away and say that's the only one that doesn't count. Yes, Chris.
As an M1 and a Category 3 UWW official, I can tell you now I've done probably 15 OEPs. They are a fully comprehensive, start to finish, all your point values, There is a ton of videos. What would you call here? What would you call there? There has not been one of those, even as long as I've been reffing, that I have not learned something out. I was the head official for Northeast Regionals this year. I went to the OEP, and there was probably 4 or 5 things that I took out of that class that I still learned.
As the head official?
Yeah.
That's all. I haven't had anybody that's gone to one that didn't say anything great. I had one person say, it was a little long.
They are long.
I'm like, okay.
Depending on your OEP instructor, they are very engaging, and it's not like it's a cut and dry, boring classroom. I mean, you do activities and different things like that to keep you moving, so you're not just sitting there ready to snooze. Awesome.
Again, great opportunity, because now as a coach, if I know not just what officials call, but I know why. I know why they're making that call that way. Now when I go in and create my practice plan, I can create a practice plan that says, we're doing it this way because this is how the officials are going to give us the reward of points. And don't we want the reward? I realized doing my mindset today, my biggest issue that causes me stress is when I do something and no one recognizes it. I don't know if that makes me egotistical. To some degree, maybe. I've been called worse. But I realized that was a big problem for me. Wow, if you just felt me to come, hey, that was a great project you did, really going to help out USA Wrestling or something like that. For me, I don't need more pay. I don't need a bonus. I don't need I just need somebody to say, this is good. And if somebody comes and said, you know what, that's not good, and I think this is how it could be better, I'm okay with that too. Stress goes away from me either way. But not hearing anything is kind of my thing. So I would recommend that OEP. The OEPs for officials, the costs are covered. For us as coaches, they're not. If you're interested in becoming an official, get in touch with an official, go through the process, then you can send an OEP funded, but now you're going to be in that pipeline to be an official and start doing some officiating. One of the best things we can do as coaches is officiate, understand the pressures, the time commitments. It's not an easy job. And we don't always make it easier. I certainly never did. The Silver College, that'll be a check in the box for you guys. Say, if for some reason you have to leave early, talk with me and we'll work out details. Sometimes emergencies come up and folks have to leave early. I get it. Then you've got to be CPR AED certified. Why? The bronze class in 2015 created a section called Emergency Action Planning, EAP. We had a coach from Pennsylvania, Kyle Martin, who's coaching a small college team, an NCWA, the club level team. He's coaching at one of the small Penn State campuses. He went through the bronze course, saw the emergency action plan, said, well, this is what USA Wrestling says I need to do. I'll embrace it. I'll put it in my coaching book. And so he put an emergency action plan in his coaching book. The emergency action plan said if an athlete gets injured, they go to the athletic trainer. The athletic trainer can then either allow them to participate in practice or can send them home. A couple kids wrestling, throw happens, kid has a guy land on his gut. He goes, oh, yeah. He tries to wrestle through it a little while. It's not working. He goes and sits down for a minute. Coach, I'll be okay. I just got the wind knocked out of me. Tries to go back and wrestle again. It's still not better. He goes, I'll be fine. I'm just going to go home, and then I'll come back tomorrow, and I'm sure I'll be fine. Coach says, hold on. Because now it's during a practice, right? Stressful. I'm running practice, and now something that I didn't plan happened. It would be easy to just be like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Go ahead and go home. I'll see you tomorrow. Problem would have been is that if he had just said that to that kid, he would have bled out in his sleep and he wouldn't have been back tomorrow. He had ruptured his spleen on the throw. So he goes to the athletic trainer, he explains the situation. The athletic trainer says, I think you've got an issue with your spleen. They bring an ambulance to the school, they take him to a medevac, they life flight him to Pittsburgh, and they save his life. Kid's going to be wrestling next year in college because he had an opportunity to have a coach that thought about more than just getting a hand raised and then thought about winning. He's thinking about how our number one job is safety for our athletes. That's why we have CPR AED. We should all know that skill so we can help save a life. Nothing better.
Is that something we have to do through USA Wrestling?
You'll have to do that on your own. We do not yet have a program.
Do one every year for our coaches at our high school?
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. And that's what's great. Most of your schools will be able to help you do that. If you're a college coach, your colleges require it every year and your athletic training staff will present it. You can go to the local fire station if they've never done it in your school or with your youth program. You can go to the local fire station or police department and they'll help set you up on how to get those done. There may be costs involved. Usually I don't think there are. You can contact the American Red Cross. They'll help get somebody to you. But it's a great thing. It's one of those things that And we're even guilty. The national office, it's probably been a year and a half, 2 years since we've recertified folks. We got some new people in that probably don't have it. What happens if I drop on the floor and the person that's around me doesn't know CPR AED? And now it's our fault because we didn't teach the right way. Sound like coaching? It's our fault if we don't teach it right. It's not the athlete's fault for not learning it right? Because everybody learns differently.
To piggyback off that.
Yes, sir.
If you live in New Jersey or you coach in New Jersey, usually for Health 4 in a public school, PE and health teachers have to be certified instructors for CPR AED. It's within the curriculum. So typically, like if you have a relationship with one of those PE teachers, they can usually train you. Like that's how usually our staff gets trained.
That's good to know. I had no idea. I didn't know PE. So in Jersey, PE teachers
In Health 4
have to have that.
In our district, they do CPR and AED.
That's great.
So all PE teachers train all the coaches for each season.
That's awesome.
Usually.
Have you had any examples where they've had to use some of those yet? Or yeah?
My first year coaching, we had a student break his neck.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Thank God they do the training, right? That's cool.
We had a youth in AED who came for a basketball practice.
Wow. High school kid? Crazy. It's scary. Can you imagine? 17-year-old kid drops on the floor. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. You just stand there and you watch him. It's not fun. I would, if I had to put anything first, I'd say CPR AED. And and this is what's great. Now in my mind I'm going, maybe we make that the first mandatory skill. If you don't have CPR AED, I won't even grade your other stuff. Because is there anything more important than being a good human and saving other people? Depending. There's a book report. When you go online, once you have your copper and your bronze certification, you go online. On our membership system in the upper right-hand corner, there's a tab called Manage. You're going to want to be familiar with that Manage tab. When you click on Manage and the drop-down comes, there's going to be one that says Coach Certifications. So if you've taken the bronze or the copper recently, that's how you got there. Manage, Coach Certifications, take your copper, take your bronze, or manage silver tasks and then manage gold tasks. Well, you're not going to be able to click to manage your silver tasks until your copper and your bronze are on your profile. So I know if you had a few folks that took this last night so that they could come here to the clinic, I'll add the certification onto your profile, and if that gives you both, then you'll be able to go through. And we can do a session if you want, and we can kind of go through where they are. But it's basically talking the same things with just more information about how to, what we expect, how to submit it, things like that. If that makes sense. Yes, sir?
Do we need our copper and our bronze?
In order to fully accomplish your silver tasks, yes. I will not sign. Like you send me your silver CPR AED, and you're not copper and bronze. I'm like, Coach, I'm not taking it.
Okay. It used to be like when I took out my cert in like 08, so I think that the bronze like trumped copper.
It did. It absolutely did. And then we said, you know what? Bronze isn't better. It's different. Bronze is 13 and up. Copper's 12 and under. And if you're a silver coach, it's an optional certification. Why wouldn't you want to know all the processes that USA Wrestling recommends for all age groups? Because even if you're an older age group coach, you should still be working with those younger ones to help bring those younger ones up, to give them the right physical literacy, health skills, life skills, to bring them into your room. Otherwise, what do? You spend your whole time teaching remediation to kids that should have had it when they walked in the room. And then you send them out to the Olympic Training Center, and they don't know what a back arch is. That's not good. Right? Now, somehow they made it there, and they're going to learn a back arch, but those are things that we want to do. The book report, again, we've got a list. Yes, sir?
Is there a statute of limitations on the online course?
Well, used to be 5 years. And so I said, if I'm going to add some of these restrictions, some of these additional requirements, I'm going to take the time off. Right? You might have a new baby tomorrow, and all of a sudden you're like, the next 5 years, I'm out of coaching. I got to.
Started it like a year ago. I didn't get to finish it yet.
The only restriction would be if you signed up for the copper or the bronze course, you have 21 days from the date you purchased it to finish the course. So if it timed out on you and you're sitting in the seat today and you want to take it but you don't want to pay again, because if you don't take it within 21 days, what happens to us, every month you're holding a seat in our course, it costs us $5. Right? So you pay us $80 for the course. 25 of that goes into our gifts and information we send you. A few more dollars goes into others, right? So there's a breakdown. And now if every month you're just sitting there taking up that classroom space, you just keep taking up that $5 classroom space, we're going to end up losing money on you. So what we do is we say, if you sign up and don't take it within that window, you have to pay again. And I've had a lot of coaches, and I'll tell you the hidden secret: suck up your ego, admit it was your mistake, and we'll give it to you for free. Don't call me up. We can edit this, right? I had a guy from Florida call me up. I'll tell you some of the names that this guy called me. I didn't even know these words worked together in a sentence. He's you. He's like, I trade $50 million a year, and you're telling me I'm not responsible? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Because you didn't read the directions, and if you did read the directions, then you disregarded the directions. So I'm telling you right now, I don't care how much money you manage, maybe I'll call your boss and say, you got a $50 million a year guy that can't follow basic directions. And now you're calling me, yelling at me? That's not cool, right? And what I've learned too is that even that coach, at some point in his life, if he wants to stay with USA Wrestling, has to come back to me. And I have to deal with him again, or her again. I haven't had any women who've ever been, they've all been great. But I've had a few guys, I don't know. At some point, I'm going to have to interact with him again if he wants to be a part of our organization. Is it okay for me in that moment to say, hey, you know what? I know we had a rough start, but we're going to start over again, new slate. Tell you what, just pay half, or something. I'd be happy to accommodate, right? Because it's not about where we are today. It's about our evolution moving forward and what we can give the sport moving forward. Sometimes I get caught in today too much, and I don't think enough about the future. So I'll work with that guy in a heartbeat. If he just calls up, hey, man, I know I probably got a little, no, hey, man, you're good. You're good. Are you good? Are you cool? Because I want him to be educated. If that guy's working with an 8-year-old kid and on the phone because he didn't do it right, he's calling me, what's he doing to that 8-year-old kid? That 8-year-old kid will carry with them the rest of their life as excess emotional baggage. I don't want any of that. Maybe a course will help him realize that there's a different way to go. The book report will give you a bunch of books. You can choose from any of them. I've had coaches say, hey, here's a book I've really been wanting to read. Do you mind if I read this one? Because I think this, and that. Come up with a reason and why. You can read any book you want at the silver level, any book you want. Submit a book report. You can even just type it in an email. It doesn't have to be formal. Please include a USA number on everything you send me, even if you're my best friend in the world, because there might be 17 people with your name, and I don't want to give that wrong book report to the wrong person. That USAID number is so important on our end. So just add that on your thing. I don't care so much about the format as much as I have that information. The book report, and then what's required in order to do silver, your membership, copper, and bronze. Then, if you've got all of that, then you get to go to gold. Again, your fees are going to vary, and it's going to be a lot more expensive at this level because our coach apprentice program is an international trip. When we got here, this wasn't required. I think it was required for silver, was to do a cap trip. And I thought, man, there's a lot of coaches that'll never go international. Should we keep them from learning the information and moving on to gold tasks without it? I didn't think that made sense. So we said, you know what? Gold level is our international trip. I put 4,000. It's almost never 4,000. It's usually closer to 2,500 or $3,000. But I always try to estimate a little higher. So if you're fundraising or saving or doing what you're doing to afford that trip, I don't ever want it to be like you're $300 short and now you can't go. We take half the payment in advance. The other half payment comes in when we take half the payment when we buy your airplane ticket. The other payment comes in about a month in advance. So we can stagger those for you so you can make them over the course of maybe 3 or 4 months instead of having to pay it all at once. Coach apprentice trip, and that's awesome. That's more fun too, because now we take 6 coaches or 3 coaches, whatever we take. We go overseas, we work as a group, and that coaching group does a capstone project. One of our groups did Jordan Burroughs, how he finishes his single leg. And what they figured out is when he's in on that single leg, if he steps up with his back foot and comes up, his finish percentage was like 12%. But if he stepped up with his lead leg first, his finish percentage was like 86%. And they went through and they watched a bunch of matches and they worked together and they talked it through and they came up with it. They made a presentation on video. We put it on our Coach Education Facebook page so that other people can learn from it and enjoy that process of evolution, right? How do your kids finish a single? I think it'd be cool if Jordan Burroughs watched me like, wow, man, I didn't even know that until this point when the coaches were working with me, right? So kind of neat to see how you can study and analyze, and I just let the coaches kind of pick a topic and make suggestions. This book report is called Ego is the Enemy. A few of the coaches that I've certified at the gold level have since been fired from coaching positions for conduct, have been banned from USA Wrestling for safe sport violations, emotional, physical, sexual abuse type things. Just because we get to say we're one of these, or that we're one of these, it doesn't mean anything really. It just means that you've committed to a process of education that we think is important and we appreciate it. But it doesn't make me any better than anybody else. It doesn't necessarily even make me a better coach than anybody else. It just makes me who I am in the moment. And I thought, you know what? If people have gone through an entire program like this and they're still making critical mistakes that are costing our sport, shouldn't we find a way to get our ego in check? And then when we deal with athletes and their egos, maybe we'll understand them a little bit better. So at the gold level, that's the book, all right? You can read it anytime you want and send a report once you get into those levels. Then you got to come here and you got to teach at one of these. 99% of the time, the way we like that to happen is that you come into this as your last gold task. Because then you get to stand in front of this group, you get to present on a topic, give back to the sport, and at the end of it, I ask all the coaches in the room, are they gold or are they not gold? And now all the coaches in the room get to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I let you guys make the call on their gold. It's pretty cool. Dave Bell from Jersey just finished his gold about a year and a half ago. And it was so cool. He's in this room at the Olympic Training Center. There were 45, 50 coaches in the room, and he finished it, and they all gave him a clap. They gave him a thumbs up, and all of them went through and shook his hand, gave him a hug. And I think it's a neat way to finish your journey. I encourage it if you can do it that way. The gentleman that's coming in tomorrow to teach on anxiety in sports, it'll be his first silver task. So it doesn't have to be your last one, but if you can, it's a really cool way to do it.
So the teaching, that's not like your position as running it, it's like one of the sections that...
Correct. Yeah, he'll just come in, do 1 hour presentation. That 1 hour presentation will probably be 45 minutes of present, 15 minutes Q&A, right? Because now I want the group of coaches to say, you said this, how does that work here? How does it do this? What is that? So now they've got that Q&A factor. Now I get to see their interpersonal relationships as well as what they've presented and prepared coming in. I do need to see those in advance. So if you can send those to me in advance, 3 weeks gives me enough time to at least go through, kind of get a general idea of the content. And 3 weeks before a silver college is always nuts. But at least 3 weeks if you can give me time. The more the better. So you'll teach. You got to write an article for USA Wrestling. It used to have to be for silver, you had to write 8 tasks. Not many wrestling coaches like to write. I found that out pretty quick, and that was a barrier to entry into our educational program. So I said it's still an important part, but it's just not going to be as much writing as it is. So this is cool. I remember Lenny Grodowski from Illinois was the first coach that we got into the magazine. So this guy's like, he's like, I'm a nobody. I'm just some, small high school coach. He's like, we're not even that great a program. He's like, why would I write an article for USA Wrestling? I'm like, because you've done all the other stuff. You're learning. It doesn't matter what your win-loss record is. What's in your heart? What's in your mind? How can you share that with others? I think it's great that we as a sport can share that information. Again, evolution kind of takes over. So you'll do that. You'll submit the article to me. I ask that it's ready for publication in that moment. And what does that mean? That means you've checked spelling, you've checked grammar, you make sure that it makes sense, that it's got a catchy title and maybe a grab at the beginning. Because if I read through it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even get past the first paragraph, I'm just going to fire it back. I'm like, again, I'm going to sound like the hockey coach on like a miracle. Again. And I've had people, I had one guy, I bet he sent 12 of them in, and every one of them was just crap. And he stopped sending. He stopped doing any of the process. Okay, right? He stopped his evolution in that moment. I was happy reading them over and over again, but I wasn't happy. So ideally, it comes to me, it's ready to put in a magazine, right? That's what I would expect at the gold level. I think that's what you guys would expect. Right, I'm a gold coach. Should it take 12 times to get an article? 500 to 600 words, a headshot of you, send that to me. We're ready to rock. mentorship task. Some of us, as we get to that gold level, we're on a little bit of the older spectrum, and maybe we're not going to be coaching that much longer. So what we've done is created a mentorship program so that you can take a younger coach and give them some of the learning lessons that you've had in your coaching career. What are the benchmarks? Maybe help them out a little bit. So you'll do that. You'll document a lot of this. Hey, I met with them on this date, and this is what we talked about. So that's about a 6-month process. Things should include, is that coach copper and or bronze certified through USA Wrestling? Why did you go through this process and take these courses and then your mentee hasn't? That doesn't make any sense. So we want you to motivate them selfishly too about USA Wrestling.
This is specifically a mentorship task of another coach, not an athlete.
You could mentor an athlete if an athlete expresses an interest in becoming a coach. Yes, I'm happy with that. We just want to impart, because remember 90% of what we teach. So now you're going to teach another coach at the gold level that's going to help cement what you learned throughout the process. Because you might have to say, I got to go back through that copper course again, man. There's a couple things in there I wanted him to really focus on, and he just, I forgot. That's okay. The new membership year, September 1, copper and bronze courses, when they take them, it's going to be taken through your coaching profile, through our membership system, and then anytime we update it or anytime you want to come back and retake it, you can go right back onto your profile and retake it. So if I update the information from core Olympic values to something else, you can be like, oh, I heard the USA Wrestling Copper program changed. You know what? I'm going to take that again. No cost. You pay the $80 once, take it as many times as you want throughout your life. Now, if somebody needs certified, they got to pay the $80 to get access to it. But I think, does that sound better? Because $80 is a lot. And I always hate, I'm like, God, it's always just money and money and money. And I don't want it to be, so let's give more value for the $80 if we can. So that's your mentorship task. A community service task. You guys probably do this all the time. We're going to go out and help senior citizens shovel their driveway because we had a huge snowstorm. You put all your wrestlers out there and you help out the community. But does the community know? Are they aware? Do other people get motivated because they saw what you did and they said, that's a great idea. We should do that in our town. And now all of a sudden wrestling programs, instead of being the guys wearing plastic bags, spitting in cups, now they're people that go out into the community, they engage, they help, people get to know them, and you think more people come watch your matches. Start getting more butts in those seats, start making wrestling environment a little bit more exciting. I think community service can be a big part of that. So you do that, you put it out on social media, and then you send us the information, and then we retweet it. So now all of our USA Wrestling followers through social media can get motivated and see what you've done. Helps you get a little recognition. Your administrators like it. Your community likes it. Community sport's a huge part of successful programs. And not this kind of success, this kind of success, right? It's how we define it. Periodization task. At the gold level, it doesn't have to be amazing. Gary Mabb's going to talk a lot about periodization. Terry Steiner's awesome at it as well. It just means that I've got a plan. Here's the end goal. And now I'm going to backtrack and figure out what a plan looks like to get to that goal. In a nutshell, that's what it is. I'll let Gary talk a little bit more about how the Greco national team periodizes. You're going to be way overwhelmed, probably a lot of us, I am, by what Gary does to periodize the wrestling program at the Greco level. He's going to have charts and graphs and Excel spreadsheets, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm not doing all that. You don't have to, right? That's for the Olympic level program, but you'll get an idea. Just dumb it down for your environment so that your kids can understand it, you and your staff get it, but now everybody's on the same page. Yes, sir.
So question on the periodization, do you guys provide samples and things like that, just like simple ones?
I will, sure. If you get to that task and you're like, hey, could you send me a few? I'll send you Gary's stuff. Gary will send you that stuff. I can email it out to the group or add it on the GroupMe app. How many of you guys thought the GroupMe app helped? Was that okay? Good. We had never done that before, and I was like, man, whether it's sharing a hotel room, saving some money, sharing the schedule. If you didn't get signed up on it, let me know. I'll get you on the app, and you can see everything else. But what's great is now you guys walk out of here, you got 24 other people who are going to be there on that group chat with you. You could say, hey, I got a question for my Silver College class. What do you all think? And now all of a sudden you can share and continue to learn and share and evolve and grow after we get done. So I got to thank the Marine Corps for that. They used that app for a coaching clinic that we did down with the Marine Corps in Quantico. And it's just, wow, just the information that's come in has been really, really great. And periodization, you've got your macro, right? What does it look like big time? At the Olympic level, that's a 4-year plan. right? We got to think each quad. I'm going to do some, all our athletes can have more weight. They can all bump up a weight in the first year after a quad, and then eventually we start to bring them down so that really they have 2019 at that key weight, 2020 is their Olympic year, and then they're ready to go, right? We wouldn't want Adeline Gray to have to stay down a couple weights for 4 years. Maybe she's out of the sport. Sound like that 112-pounder that you made cut too much weight that ended up getting out of the sport in your team and you lost your numbers, right? So we want to do everything we can to recruit and retain these people. We have to recruit and retain at the Olympic level. JB ends up winning it in 12, doesn't place in 16. What happens if JB's not wrestling the last 3 years? He's out of the... Now, maybe we gain coaching from him, absolutely, his experience with the other athletes. But man, we want to keep our top athletes around winning those medals as long as we can. So that's where the periodization and training really can come in big. This miscellaneous task using 4D learning, there's a link on your silver profile. So once you get there, you can check it out. It's the Galloway School, and they teach four-dimensional learning. A lot of folks use it. And it's just basically 4 words that start with the letter D that you just want to consider when you're trying to figure out a solution to a problem. I don't know if we're going to keep that one around very long, but if you use it, it's certainly going to count as a credit. And then if we replaced it, you guys would be grandfathered in, and you'd be able to use that task credit, no problem. If you've done a lot of tasks in the past, I know, Rick, you've done a ton of work, right? There's a lot of stuff you've been doing. If you've done stuff in the past, before I got there, the records, the data, it's not great, right? 2014, we started to get some more solid data. This year, we got the new membership system. Now we've got a house that we can keep it all in, and we know it's not going anywhere. Prior to 2008, it's just gone. So much of it's just gone. If we've got notes on it, you get credit for what you've already done towards silver and gold. If we don't have notes on it, and you can say, hey, here's what I did and show us, I'm happy to accept it and take more, and we'll substitute it for one of these other credits. Just work with me, I work with you, and we have a great relationship that way. Host a tournament or a coaching clinic, but not one of these. Putting 3 days of this together is insane, and I'm not at a point where I'll say I absolutely would never entertain it, but almost never. To put together this kind of staff, to come in for a full day, to have them in one site. You know, imagine if I had to fly in Bill Zadek, Clarissa Chun, Kevin Jackson, Mo, Gary. I can't run a Silver College in your town and make it cost effective and keep the cost down. If you want to jack the price up to $600 and I fly everybody in, I still can't get them on the schedule. That's why we have to do it at a big event like this, and especially a big event like this where you guys don't have to go out and coach Saturday, so that you're not all stressed about your athletes and what they're doing at the hotel and is their weight good, and you're running in and out dealing with stuff. I want education and this learning to be about learning. Create the best environment, right? Again, CPR AED has to be current. So if you did it for silver but it's gone out of time, you just have to recertify for your gold. And then what's required? Everything. Any questions about the process? Yes, sir. Mark.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but did you talk about the practice plan and video?
No, I did not. On the silver level, the technical certification, this practice plan and video. Thank you for that. Send me a practice plan. Ideally, you'll see on the silver online tracker, right? You'll see on that tracker and it'll say, create a periodization plan. We recommend you use our form at this link. Click on the link. It's a digital form. If you fill that out, you're almost always going to get approved right away. I might have a few questions, and I'll just say, consider these questions. You're approved. Fill me your practice. And then if you want to talk with me more about it, we'll talk more about it. If you send me crap, and I'm like, you're going to go out and you're going to video it, and then you're going to send it to me, and I'm going to watch 2 hours of video. I spend about 4 hours on every 2-hour video. I'm trying to give a ton of info to you guys, so that it's just tons of information that you can process and think about. Again, not right or wrong. I'm just throwing things out that from my perspective. Any physicists or any of that? Space-time continuum people? Any of you guys get into that crap? Google space-time sometime. It's crazy that you and you and you and I can be watching the same thing and have 4 different ways we perceive how it happened because of time and space, and it's crazy, right? But anyway, right? We all see it different ways. So do the practice plan. What is a practice plan? It should have a written objective. Once the written objective is stated, it should have a good warm-up. Static stretching or dynamic stretching for a warm-up?
Dynamic always.
Always. The end of the practice, if you want to do some static, maybe, maybe not. The jury's still out on that. A lot of the folks I'm talking to say never static stretch. What's a static stretch? Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20. Okay, good. Now I'm ready to practice. No, I'm ready to get injured, is what we found out. Static stretching has higher rates of injury than dynamic stretching. So we dynamic at the beginning. I'd recommend dynamic at the end. But if you want to do a little static at the end, that would be the time to do it. You can increase a little bit of flexibility in those moments.
The person who's about to take the CSCS exam, static stretching will relieve some of your recuperation time. But as you said, if you do it beforehand, what it actually does is it weakens your joints and stretches them out and opens you. You're more likely to get injured than less likely. But they do recommend it, at least for the strength and conditioning, not necessarily wrestling, but
Okay.
strength and conditioning specific.
Static at the end.
Afterwards to help the healing process.
Cool. And it's good to know. This is all good information from somebody that's taken it with the best folks out there. It's really good. What else? Any other questions? I figure a year from now we'll have 24 new gold coaches anyway, so it's all good. It does take a while.
Maybe 2 years from now.
Maybe 2. And I always appreciate too, patience is a tough thing for all of us. Our coach education office has 3 people. It's me, myself, and I. And 2 of us don't get along very well with the other one. So your patience with me. The practice plan, I can get back to you quick. The video, not so quick. We had 38 coaches as a backlog on the video when our membership system was being renewed because there was no place to log the information. And I didn't want to just do an Excel spreadsheet and try to transfer it over and my own issues. But we had a backlog of about 38 coaches. And then in addition to the ones that have added it on, I think we're down now to about 6 that I owe that information back to. So that's 6 coaches at 4 hours, 24 hours of video study on top of everything else. I want to make sure I get you the best stuff, and I hope it's worth it when you get it if you've had to wait a while. I've even had coaches that have had to wait maybe 6-8 months to get the video back. I try to get it back quicker, and I think once we get caught up and get some things moving. You guys ready for a break? Let's do this. Everybody stand up, please. And again, everything here is to your level, right? I know some people might have a physical level and they say, you know what, I know Brandon Slay wants to do double leg takedowns on me, but I don't think that's a good idea because I have a broken shoulder or a heart condition. Just tell Brandon Slay you don't, I'm sorry, I have some physical conditions that aren't going to allow me to do that, so I would rather you do that for me. And anybody that wants to bring wrestling shoes too, you want to be the drill partner with Terry Steiner, Bill Zadek, bring your shoes, bring your gear, jump on the mat with them because we're going to need some folks like that. So it'd be great. We'd love to have some folks tomorrow after lunch with Gary Mayab and then mostly on Friday. So Friday would be a great day if you want to bring shoes and maybe get on the mat and do some stuff like that too. But if there's anything you don't feel comfortable or feel safe with, don't do it, right? And I don't need to know why. Just say, I feel like I'd like to sit out of that one. No problem. Okay? Never an issue. I want to test you. So wherever your feet are at right now, I want you to memorize that spot because your feet need to go into that same spot as a point of reference. Right? What we're going to do is we're going to put our fingers together like we got a little pistol. I'm going to put that on my chest. And wherever my feet are, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to rotate a few times. And I'm going to try to see how far I can rotate my torso. Right? Can I go right and left? And try to find a frame of reference. Okay, for me, it's that pillar and the edge of the door, the heating and air conditioning area. Okay, so I can get just about to there. Everybody have a good point of reference? Feel pretty good? Cool. We're going to do another test. Next test, feet together. I want you to just keep your legs straight. It's not a contest. I just want you to see how far you can go until it gets to a point where you're like, yeah, it's a little tough there. That's about it. That's about as far as I can get. Or wherever that's at, just remember about where you're at on your legs. And we're just going to put a frame of reference on there. Cool. All right, everybody got that? Good. What I want you to do now is I want you to take your thumb. You're going to move your thumb to the far side of your hand. And you're going to pull that thumb across your hand 3 times. You can do more if you want, but pull that thumb across your hand. And then you're going to scoop with that thumb. Scoop 3 times. Get that really scoop. Then you're going to do 3 circles to the right and 3 to the left. And we're going to do it with the other hand. Pull, pull, pull. Dig, dig, dig. 3 circles right, 3 circles left. Now put your feet back together and reassess your stretch. See if you get any further than you did before. How many people got further? How many people didn't get as far? And it might, right? There's no, it's not perfect. What happens is our brain and our body, we used to think of them as separate, but it's all one system, right? It's not just mental training and physical training. They all affect each other. So what happens is we have dysfunction in our vertebra, in our joints, and all of our neurons shoot signals to the brain that report on the condition of our body. Thumb's not doing so good. So what does the brain say? Oh, well, if that thumb's not doing good, I don't want to send more power there because more power means they'll do more and that'll really jack that joint up. So when our brains receive the information from the joint, then the brain says, send more power or send less. And that's our whole process of life. So what we did is we said, this is our flexibility level. Let's get the joint in our thumb to send a signal to the brain and see how much more flexibility the brain is willing to give us in this moment. It's crazy, isn't it? Because we didn't stretch our hamstrings. We didn't do anything to affect the area we were testing, and the brain still gave us more flexibility. Put an 80-year-old man on a surgery table under anesthetic, full splits. Why?
Because the brain's not solid.
The brain has created a ceiling for all of us. There's a ceiling on our kids. If we help lift that ceiling off, we get more out of it. And it's just better communication, whether that's verbal communication to our people or whether that's internal communication, brain to body. So the more mobility we do, the better the signals go back to our brain, the more the brain gives us. The same coach in Pennsylvania that saved the kid's life with the emergency action plan has said, for years, knees and ankles, tons of injuries. How many knee and ankle injuries do you guys have on an average each year? A lot? Last 2 years doing lower body mobility, he's had 0 knee and ankle injuries. Anecdotal, sure, but that's a coach that said every year, tons. We implement one change, and now we've had none. It's the rehab and performance group I work with, and as a special treat to everybody, they want to give you a free clinic on what they call Shinbox, which is a mobility training program. So after the clinic's over and I get back to work out the details with them, we'll send you an email and you'll all get a class on mobility. It's normally about a $60 class. And these are the best sport performance and rehabilitation groups I've ever worked with in my life. Great humans, great people. They're not in it for the money. You're going to get that class. You're going to be able to learn these skills. And if you feel these skills are good and you can pass it on, then we're good to go. If you need to grab a drink, let's take a few minutes. It's 2:23. Let's take to 2:30. So you've got 7 minutes, and we'll start right up at 2:30 with that next section.